So we wanted to thank them very much for their sponsorship. Also, today's session is a twist on Meet the Masters. Our masters, Ryan Lake, Mark Ricard, and Rob Sanchez, will tell you firsthand how their business models have changed, what the impact of big data and technology advances are, and how they have affected change within their own organizations. Chet Dalzell is today's moderator. Chet is the Senior Director of Communications and Industry Relations with the Digital Advertising Alliance. Chet has 25 years of public relations management and expertise in service to leading brands in consumer, donor, patient, and B2B markets, and in the fields of integrated direct marketing. He serves on the DMA's International Echo Awards Board of Governors and is an advisor to the Direct Marketing Club of New York and Direct Marketing Idea Exchange. Chet?
Thanks, Christine. You know, my first PR crisis was in Greenwich, Connecticut. Years ago, my first gig at a college was in politics. I worked in the state capitol in Hartford, and I was the press secretary for the state senator from Greenwich, Michael Morano at the time. Does anyone know who Michael Morano is? Anybody in the room?
You can talk about it.
When you go over I-95, over the Mianus River, that's the Michael Morano Memorial Bridge, because that was the crisis that he faced, was that bridge collapse way back when, I think 1983. Yep. And that was my first baptism in crisis communications. So it was a fun time to come back to Greenwich. And I have to tell you, the Direct Marketing Club of New York would be very jealous of this venue you guys have here. It's fantastic. Thank you, Christine, for those nice remarks. I remember my first job in direct marketing was coming to DMA in New York. And I just started in June, and I remember my first list day was in 1988, and I think it was at the Hilton Hotel that year. And then we grew up and went to the Hotel Pierre for 2 years. And I'm gonna let you guys know, I think we were polite, I never got the real story, but I think we were politely asked not to come back there. And the reason was, so much deal making goes on at a list day conference that the sessions, well, they were populated, but more people were out in the lobby and in the, every salon that particular hotel had, making deals, selling data. And I said to myself, and actually from a DMA perspective too, the list crowd was where you saw business transacting and the role of data in marketing just playing itself out so wonderfully so. So take 1990, 1991, look what's happened since then, and it's crazy the transformation we've had to go through in this business. I remember it used to be net names, and now we've got to deal with omni-channel and big data and offline data being used in online data in some creative ways. We're going to hear about some of these, talk about these today. I think most of you guys know who our three masters are. Ryan Lake is Chief Executive Officer of Lake Group Media. And what I liked about Ryan's bio is that he's in charge of technology, relationships, and partnerships. All three of those are very important in our field. And how to provide incremental income to list management clients, improve the response, efficiency, and acquisition for those clients. And the thing that I loved about the new products and services in the Lake Group Media family is the analytics and the database and the interactive arenas, all joining our traditional direct response backgrounds. Ryan's also very active in the DMA councils, now called communities. And prior to becoming CEO, Ryan held various positions in the business, in list brokerage, interactive, and list management departments. Mark Ricard is CEO of Ricard Squared, 30-year data-centric direct marketing agency on Long Island, Hauppauge, I just learned. And Mark succumbed, is the word I see here, to the lure of direct marketing and joined his sister in the business that their father had founded in the mid-'80s. So data centricity has always been part of his company's background. And Mark's also on the board of HVDMA and is a former board member of the Direct Marketing Association of Long Island, but he prefers it here.
Right.
So that's good. And next is filling out our panel is Rob Sanchez from Merit Direct. And Rob grew Merit Direct through strategic acquisitions and expansion of its marketing and business services. So using those acquisitions route to transform the business. And I really curious as he tells his story too of how that transformation has happened from list management to interactive services to data and media services. I think you're going to hear the word analytics a lot. I wish I could bring an army of data analysts with me today so you could all hire them. I think that's going to come up in our conversation a little bit as well. But let's a warm welcome to our masters.
Who do we thank for the comfortable chairs?
You don't get
We're kind of far apart.
That's on purpose.
Fireside chat. We're just missing the fireplace. There you go.
Somebody gets a mic. They're there, so I'm presenting them. I don't know if they're necessary, but I'm fine. So, guys, I want to start us off with, I see a lot of disruption that's happened in our business. And I think the disruption, we all know it to be digital disruption, but I think recessions have played a large part in how brands and CMOs have come to using accountability and measurability of data in their businesses. We've all seen the lifespan of a CMO. At one point it was 18 months. I think it's now up to 26. What I'd love to hear from you guys is, in each of your respective companies, how have you seen marketing services morph into multi-channel, morph into digital? And has there been a common path, or has it been haphazard and fits and starts in getting to there? We'll start off with you, Mark.
Well, I think it's haphazard. I think it's a little bit of everything. And, personally, we are, a list company historically, which now reeks of direct mail, and I think there's a challenge as a small business owner to make sure that that you're perceived for something more than that. So as the world changes and as the people you're dealing with are looking for more solutions, you have to be out in front of them. Sometimes you don't have to be out in front of them that far, but you need to be out in front of them. So, we've done a good job of maintaining our credibility in sort of a new space. I mean, ultimately, it really is about data-driven marketing. It's all about first-party data and third-party data, and being able to use that to target and choose a channel and make sure the messaging is proper, and the back end, making sure the analytics are there. But the conversations we have are different over time, because we're not leading with lists anymore. We're not leading with direct mail. We're leading with, what are you trying to accomplish? What are the metrics ultimately that you have to meet? How much are you willing to pay for a subscriber or a member or a donor or a purchaser of a product? And then how can we be, get you where you need to be? Now we're data agnostic for the most part. We're channel agnostic. So that means that we're looking to put the best solutions on the table for our clients. And for me, because we have some fairly large brands that have been clients of ours for a very long time, I need to make sure that we're credible in whatever new products and services we're offering. So they trust us, and as long as we say sort of data-centric, they'll take our call. They'll, talk to us about the solutions that we have. So we've been able to transform, into the digital side of the business pretty easily with the clients that trust us.
Ryan, did you, one of the things I wanted to also say when I was opening up is Winterberry Group. Did anyone see last month they put out a new report showing that the data business in the United States now is an $11 billion enterprise? And what struck me is that this study was, when I came into, I think in the early 90s, SRDS did a similar study and pegged it at $2 billion. So we've grown 5 times, but I bet you the sweat equity to get there to 11 billion is a lot harder than it used to be. So as you're having conversations with your clients, it doesn't start with the data, correct? It starts with what are the challenges or opportunities they're seeing. I just wanted to hear from you from a list management perspective. What are your clients asking you to do?
Yeah, the first thing is it really starts with the goal of what the client is looking for. Is it to achieve a new customer at an acceptable ROI, whatever it might be? And for us, most of our clients have been with us a long time. They've done historically traditional direct mail. And so a quick example of how that's changed in the last few years. Very recently, one of our clients is Picture People. I don't know if you've ever seen the coupons for new babies, basically. And towards the end of last year, they said to us, look, we're not doing direct mail anymore. And they mailed millions and millions of direct mail coupons to the new parent space from 0 to 2 age range. And so for us, I think 5 years ago, we would have said, well, maybe you could try email lists that we can give you, and that was about it. And we've transformed ourselves to be able to leverage the data, but use it in different people. So leverage it for display, leverage it for analytics on display, leverage it for even TV, providing addressable TV audiences that people can leverage. Leverage it for email as well, so targeted emails that can go out. So just a quick example of just one company that, again, used to do a ton of direct mail, is not doing that anymore, and we've had to transform ourselves. I think we've all done that.
Did they look to you to choose that other channel, or they made the decision to drop direct mail just, without thinking about what was next?
So they basically dropped it because they were owned by a private equity group and said, we need to cut. We need to make a cut. So let's find more effective, efficient media. So it was their decision to do it, and they came to us and said, what should we replace it with?
That's a good question, is like, how do you preserve the mail moment in an omnichannel environment? And I say, I see, I'm trying to think of some good examples off the top of my head, and maybe you guys do. Have you seen a client abandon the direct mail channel, driven so by procurement, cost cutting, not understanding what the ramifications of that would be, and then how do you, and I always use, and we've all heard the term direct mail dollars, digital dimes, so you're probably not even getting the revenue that you used to get per touch of the customer. How do you preserve that mail moment? And curious, Rob, have you seen somebody that it didn't work out when they abandoned the mail medium altogether?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. One, back to what we were talking about, is that there's never been more data-driven marketing across all the channels than there is right now. There's never been more data. There's never been more customers of data. I think the connection you have to make in our position is to make sure you're selling on the solution, and then Mark had mentioned kind of being agnostic. I think you can't get...
Rob, you grab the mic,
I'm sorry.
we're having some trouble hearing you. Thanks.
I think you can't get hung up on the channel, and I think you have to be solution-based. Excuse me, a few years ago, we kind of rebranded all what was the traditional divisions into things that describe the solution we were trying to reach. And I think that's done a lot for us. So the conversations like Ryan mentioned is going in and talking about how to acquire customers, how to monetize data. We have seen several examples in both managing data and on customer acquisition side, where the example you just mentioned, where we had a client, big private equity backed, huge company, that there was really this pressure to put money in digital at all costs and quickly to satisfy where the multiple might lead that. And it tanked very, very quickly. And they cut about half of their direct mail volume, which was a well-oiled machine. It was direct mail, it was analytics, it was database marketing, it was multi-channel, it was really doing well, driving a lot of e-commerce. And they quickly went back and acknowledged that, well, yeah, we do need to do more digital, but we need to do it in the right way, and we need to integrate the channels. And on the data management side, we've had examples where we've gone and explained to clients, this is what the market was, CPM, list rental, email marketing, and this is where it has become and how that looks. And if you want to make the same money or more, you've got to do this. You can't do this anymore because you're going to just keep going down with whatever trends exist.
We have one of our clients is an agency that represents the American Automobile Association, big mailer of ours, tens of millions of names in the mail every year. We have sort of a different variation of that. We're trying to get out ahead of them because we think that the day is coming when they're not going to be able to make direct mail work like they do now. So we're trying to find those solutions that enable them to transition into the next phase of what they're doing while they're still doing big volumes in direct mail. Now, as a practical matter, they're sort of throwing darts at the board right now, trying to figure out what makes sense, and some of these alternate channels aren't immediately accessible to them in the way that direct mail is. You're not going to get somebody to open an email, even if it's the right target market, and buy a $65 membership. It's just not going to happen. But they have to get a lead generation program in place. They have to get people to raise their hands and say, I might be interested in a AAA membership, and then have sort of a nurturing set of marketing messages from that point forward that ultimately results in a member. Whereas before, if you took the traditional direct mail model and tried to transition it online, you're just not going to get somebody to open up an email and buy a membership.
Came to my head was JCPenney, and I remember when they had their CMO come in and say, no more direct mail, no more promotional, no more sales. Everything was going to be, low cost or fair cost pricing, and the business tanked immediately. You just have to keep giving an impetus to the customer to buy, well, no matter what the channel is. I think Mark, you bring a good point about what will the next generation, how will they spend? How will they, their hard-earned money, where does it get, how do they make their purchase decisions? What is the path to purchase? And as we're looking at our personas, are you guys looking at the personas of your clients' buyers and how they do their path to purchase and understanding that data touch? Brian, anyone?
Yeah. Just yell. Yeah, just yell. Yes, I mean obviously every client is different, and they have the challenge is a lot of our clients. Let's take the nonprofit arena as an example. The direct mail has worked for decades, and it's typically a lot of the nonprofit lists are older audiences. So to that point, they have been less receptive and more resistant, typically, to test digital than a lot of other categories, because the direct mail is so consistent, but also because their thought process and ours has been that these people still respond if they're 65 plus, 70 plus, that they respond to the traditional direct mail, and they're not online the way they used to be. What we're finding now, honestly, is that when we look at an opportunity like a Facebook as a new opportunity for nonprofits, 5-10 years ago, Facebook was for all the kids. Well, now it actually is a lot of the 50, 60 plus people are on Facebook. So we're actually leveraging and getting some good success in that marketplace.
The grandkids.
So obviously knowing who the client's target is and knowing how they will respond is
Yeah, we have a whole business that's dedicated to to technology clients and actually developing their persona, and we're selling into more of the sales and contact management area than the broad-based marketing area. And what essentially we do is go in, look at the customers, identify those personas, do data hygiene, and actually replace names and data that looks like what they're losing. And it's a big part of our business. We do things with social media validation, appends, hygiene, but that is a big part of what that market is doing, is identify who's the prime buyer by market, by category, and kind of trying to duplicate that activity.
Are each of you guys seeing a lift, and I know you said data agnostic, but are each of you seeing a lift right now in my world of digital marketing? We're seeing offline data come into the discussion to inform the models that are being used to target, acquire, retain. Are we seeing offline data being used in online environments this way? And have your clients engaged you on this process like that?
Yeah, we went through one of our main digital initiative was to take, well, I guess you consider email offline data now, but take our large email database properties and take those demographics and onboard them and create online audiences. So where we can actually do targeting across business audiences by title, function, industry into those areas that usually didn't exist as much online. We also can do a lot of learning from the programmatic and the display, what actually happens, and take that learning and apply it back. So there is a big nexus of offline email data being used to create data-driven marketing opportunities in the display business.
Yeah, we're having more conversations with our clients about their own first-party data than we ever did before, because they don't realize the power of being able to take that first-party data that is, traditionally collected, and they're not doing anything other than maybe mailing it or trying to resurrect old customers, taking it, matching it to online data pools, and creating a whole new channel to talk to their clients in. So where in the past, the conversation was, we're doing a mailing, I need a list, and this is my target market. Now we're, again, trying to provide more solutions, trying to make sure they understand that the power of data is such that we can find their customer in channels that they don't currently engage them in, whether that's email or display or whatever, or Facebook or things like that.
Yeah, we're backdooring into big data discussions, and when you're bringing in, when I hear the term big data, I always scratch my head and like, what does that mean, and what's the definition? And one of the things I saw in Aberdeen report, which I loved, was just talking about the variety of data, the volume of data, and the velocity of data being used for real-time marketing. And I'm curious, I just saw a report out from eMarketer yesterday saying in 2019, 72% of digital marketing will be devoted to the mobile space. Mobile being one of those moments of truth with a consumer where they're making a purchase decision of one sort or another. So I'm just curious, have you guys seen, there's really two things that come into play. One is mobile getting more into your discussion with clients, and if so, how? And then second is, and I'll reserve my second question for a second.
Yeah, I think with mobile, what we're seeing is it's a moving target. Just got one of those Samsung phones, which is as big as that chair. Is that mobile, right? Is an iPad mobile? Is a Surface tablet mobile? Is your phone mobile? So I think the concept, I think one of the best ways we've seen that it comes full circle is people realize, well, what's the most readable media on those devices is email. So emails had kind of a resurgence because I think it's about 40% of emails now, at least, are being read on a mobile device. So email marketing is getting to that device. We haven't seen a great deal of success with the actual display on a mobile device as much. It's a little funky, but I think that's, I think email is serving as a great way to get in. It's an asset that people already have. There's email lists available. There's databases of customers available. So we're seeing that kind of come full circle back to email.
What about search, especially in the mobile device? I think a lot of people do use search on the go, and I believe, I'm seeing it, both in online display and in search, using this offline data to help inform and make a more efficient digital, you're talking about programmatic media buying, still a lot of waste in those. And I'm going to correct myself, I said programmatic media buying. Actually what's going on in programmatic is audience buying. And it's here, like we've always done, like we've all, we're the ones in the room that lived here before Google Analytics came along. We're looking at the target audience and we're coming up with the recommendations for our clients in these environments. But I'm seeing some innovative uses for CRM data in making a more efficient digital display or digital search, paid search by location data. So I'm just curious if you guys seen any of those, or do you have clients in that space that have worked with, or any of in that environment?
Yeah, I think to your original point about big data, 20 years ago, you tell people, what do you do for a living? It's like, oh, I'm in the direct mail list business. No one knew what it was until you said, the junk mail that you get, that's from us. Take me off your list. That was the only time people ever knew who we were. And you talk about how far it's come. Today, you say, big data, you say list, everyone understands it. And I think that's in part because of the digital environment, and everyone understands how they're being targeted a lot more than ever before.
Now they say, stop following me around the web.
Yeah, right. Creepy. But in terms of targeting too, it doesn't, the targeting ability for example, with display, we thought we had it figured out. We're going to take, in the new family space again, just to leverage the same example, we'll take, offline data of people we knew were pregnant, just had kids, we'll transfer it online into cookies, we'll upload it, and it's going to work just as well, just half the price or a fraction of the price for the paper, postage, or printing. Had a small test budget of about $25,000, and it bombed. So it wasn't that you could just take the data, put it up there, and have it work. So it's been a process too, leveraging the analytics piece of it to say really who's viewing these ads and how can we be more effective in mobile.
To get to your point about mobile, I always sort of, when a client wants to talk about mobile, I always sort of take a step back and say, okay, well, what do they really mean? And so, Rob makes a great point. Mobile could be email, mobile can be display, mobile can be search, as you say. Mobile is not, an SMS text message to get me to buy something.
We did try that once and it bombed.
Yeah. The most important conversation we have to have with somebody, is, okay, if you're going to do email, if you're going to do display, you need to make sure that your site is optimized for mobile, that it's going to render properly, that people are going to be able to take the action that you're looking for on their mobile device, whether it's their giant Samsung or their tablet or whatever it is. And I'm amazed at the number of clients that aren't prepared for that, that don't have it, don't realize that 40 to 70% of the people that get the email are going to see it for the first time on their mobile device. And if you want them to take an action then, you better have the right assets in place to allow them to do that. We did a big campaign for an agency that represents LG phones. Over the last couple of years, we've launched a couple of phones for them. The great thing that they're very, very focused on, given who their target market is, these sort of early adopters of these interesting big technology, high-def phones. They know that these people are going to, raise their hand on a mobile device, so they make sure everything they do is completely caters to the person who gets this email for the first time on that device and wants to immediately sign up.
That brings to mind that when the Postal Service first tried its QR code promotions, they didn't make any requirements that the QR code had linked to anything that was mobile ready. So it bombed. Not that the promotions didn't, the Postal Service may have gotten some revenue out of it, but the consumer experience was not ideal, to say the least. So everything since then, and that they still do the mobile QR codes and promotions with the postage service, but everything has to be mobile first, mobile ready, just to optimize, as you say. We're gone into solution selling from data selling. The role of the data marketer has changed. How have you guys handled your workforce issues? And I'm talking about recruiting the right people, how to find an analyst, and getting the analytic skills on both the client side and on our own side of what's working and what's not working now. What could we do better?
Yeah, I think we've built out a fairly substantial analytics business that runs across kind of two different groups. And the type of person that we were hiring to do that work was a lot different than the quote-unquote persona of somebody that was in the list business or in sales. And definitely took a while to kind of get to the right people. We set up programs with colleges. We got people in fairly early. We've got people that were networking that within those college majors that were studying analytics that came over. We're going through the same thing now with the digital side of the business, which my digital person here, Ethan, can attest. That's been more of a challenge. I think what you see across both digital and analytics is the market demand outside of marketing services is pretty huge for certain skill sets. So analytics guys can come out of school and go work at big banks. Digital people can go down and work at Google or any number of places. So you really have to make it be competitive with the offerings that you're going to do to these people, because it's a different ballgame and it's different than anything we've seen in our space or in this space before. And we've got a recruiting program, we've got an onboarding program, we've got a great HR director. So we're doing all these things to adapt to kind of the corporate environment, not just, hey, we've always been this type of company and we've got people through word of mouth. That's all been kind of scrapped and changed.
I'm a smaller company than these guys. I have people that have worked for me for a very long time that are very good at what they do, and they have very strong data instincts. I think my biggest challenge is, and this I guess is the difference between a leader and an owner, right? I have to empower them to, not be afraid of the new world. I need to make sure that they're educated in the sense that I give them every resource they need to learn about the things, because they're the ones in the front lines. They're having the conversations with the clients and with the line people at our prospects. So they need to be well versed in it. So I try to be enthusiastic about getting them involved in it. I think that again, there's opportunities for them there, and as long as you can be very creative with technology and how data fits into all of it. So the important point for me to sort of impart to them is, embrace it. It's here. It's not going away. It's not that different from what you're doing now. It's different technology. There might be different conversations or buzzwords. There's a whole different lexicon. But at the end of the day, the goals that you're trying to reach, the service that you're trying to provide for your clients is the same thing. You're trying to target their customers. You're trying to engage them. You're trying to generate sales or revenue or build their business with them.
Have you guys had to change your technology platforms that you're working on? I mean, I feel like we're all in the tech business now. Do we feel that way? I'm like, yeah, right? I'm like, it's profound. I mean, the other thing that I think is just talk about disruptions is, I was at a DMIX lunch a couple weeks ago, and Stuart Elliott, who was the New York Times columnist, spoke. And one of the things that he observed was Facebook and Google kind of snuck up on Madison Avenue, and now when you go to the Cannes ad festival in France, it's Google and Facebook who have the big tents on the beach, and and WPP and Interpublic and everybody, Publicis are all in the background. And it kind of showed you how Silicon Valley came up out of nowhere and picked the pocket of Madison Avenue. And none of the big agency groups are all here today. They're not gone away. They've survived. They're resilient. But it does say something about the role of technology in the marketing world, how ad tech has come in with the media, with data as a service, with marketing clouds, with programmatic media. I'm just curious, have you guys had to transform yourselves from a technology perspective, and have you done it organically or through acquisitions or through partnerships?
I think the most important thing is knowing where you fit in. You're not going to go out and start selling CRM systems that compete with like a Salesforce.com, right? That's a non-starter. But you can help somebody feed data into that system to keep it clean. So I think it always comes full circle back to the data, how we can make it work, and what are our clients have certain integral parts that they might be using. They might use marketing automation, they might use a CRM system. And at what point can you come into that to help them in what their end goal is? So I think knowing what to take on and definitely what to not take on, what not to resell, and where you fit in. And I think data is a very important part of what we're seeing in all markets, but specifically in tech. So we choose to kind of fit in and be the guys that can come in and clean the data and make it fit into your CRM and your marketing automation. As far as the selling aspect, I think the biggest accomplishment I've had in looking at the company, and what makes me the proudest, is seeing the frontline people that have traditionally been maybe a manager or a broker dealing with a client, having them recognize that there's a need to do some of these things, but then giving them the resource to pull in somebody that is specialized in digital or specialized in analytics. I think if you go into a client and try to be everything without subject matter experts or some kind of case, you're kind of eroding that trust that you might have built up over 10, 15, 20 years. So you have to be really careful on saying, yeah, we know that, we can do that. You have to make sure either you have it staffed or you have the right partnership to bring in. Because a lot of those clients would rather deal with the folks in this room. It's a relationship that's already built. So you're just basically leveraging on top of that to get some additional channel or service sold to them.
That's a great point. I mean, I find that so much of what I do is just vetting ad tech partners, figuring out who the best of breed is in any particular area, and then being able to sort of articulate why that's a benefit for my clients that they work with them. I mean, I have clients coming to me to vet ad tech partners for them. You mentioned Publicis, they're a client of ours, we do work with them, but they're bombarded with people all the time, and they say, well, this is sort of implicates data somehow, so let me have Ricard look at this and vet this for me and figure out whether this guy's just trying to sell me, a million names, or whether he's got something new or some secret sauce that makes this different, such that we can sort of patch a hole in my, inventory of digital, data solutions.
It's the same for us. I mean, that's probably my biggest job today is doing exactly what you're talking about, vetting all these opportunities. All of our technologies are predominantly, if not all, partnerships. So we've had some that have been failures. So for example, we were going to get into DRTV from a media standpoint. Old Google TV, when Google was going to get into selling the TV space, they would take all the local markets, all the local media on television, and then buy it on a national scale and leverage their technology to buy an ad across the nation in 30 seconds, but at the same rates that your local restaurant or your local car dealership would pay, because obviously they're paying a drastically reduced rate. Theory sounded great. We had a client come in and test it, and it worked with a small budget. Every other client that we talked to in the nonprofit space, Finger Hut, you've seen their TV ads now. They said talk to their agency. So we go into the agency and say, yeah, we've got a great way to really be more efficient. And they would just be like, get out of our space. We don't want vendors. So our big thing was how do we really fit in to Rob's point. And so that becomes the biggest challenge. But in terms of, that's my biggest role is to give our talented people who know the analytics piece of it just the opportunity.
But there are definitely plenty of ways to fit in. I mean, I think that's the point. We still have an expertise that we can bring to the table, no matter who they're using. If they're using a direct, an ad tech partner directly that, purports to do everything, there's still, points of entry that we can sort of exploit and maintain our credibility.
Yeah, I think you have to pick your spot. And so in the digital space, because it's become so data-driven, because the conversation is who you target, so you have the people that have the expertise, but then you fit in pretty well. In the search space, a couple of years ago, we tried something, and the conversation was, well, why wouldn't I just go direct to Google? And Google owned the whole marketplace, and we really couldn't answer that. We couldn't layer something on top of it to make it worth their while, and the whole business was so commoditized.
Because the algorithm was a big secret.
So we can coordinate it with other channels, and to the degree the value of that was substantial, we really couldn't find it as much. So now I think with digital and display, it's so data-driven that there is a value for a company like us and all of us to play in that space.
And that's to your point, when you said, are you a tech company? I still think we're a data company at the end of the day, providing data for custom audiences, no matter what it is, if it's direct mail or display or Facebook or what have you.
I'm curious, on the client side, who's in the room now when you're talking about solution selling? You all mentioned relationships and how strong they've been over the years, but I have to think that there's somebody else in the room now besides the marketing, the database person. So who are those people, and are you talking to them? Is it a very holistic conversation, or are there other influences that come into play now when you're conducting business that makes a difference in closing the sale?
Yeah, I think a lot has to do with the market. So when you're in the tech market, not only are you potentially dealing with the marketing side, you may be dealing with the sales side. People that run contact management databases, CRM, marketing automation. So there's a very big market to kind of operate on that side. You may be dealing with CMOs, pure data people, and in the multi-channel merchant side, it's marketing directors. What we see is pretty common now is the companies are restructuring to, it's not circulation, it's audience. And then audience is becoming across different channels, or at least the ones that are smart about it. And they're kind of having multiple channels being handled in the same group so they can coordinate and it's not a fight over budget all the time. That situation still exists, but I think the companies that are kind of looking forward are blending the groups a little more.
What I'm surprised by is actually a lot of our clients are still very siloed, that you wouldn't think they should be or would be, but they are.
Is omni-channel still a pipe dream?
Omni-channel is one of our products. So.
It's a pipe dream.
A guy from Epsilon spoke a couple of years ago. Out of 1,000 Epsilon clients in database, he said, truly 20 had done something to get to that point of being semi-omni-channel.
Well, I think when you look at a single campaign, and I want to make everything match and everything, I want to do direct mail, and then call them, and then do an email, and then do display. That's absurd, and that's a bad goal. But if you look at a company that does a lot of catalog mail, and then somebody goes to the website and orders, is that omni-channel? Yeah. So it's really, I think, people thinking it's got to be all within the same campaign, and you got to coordinate everything. That's too much, but to be proficient in different channels, I definitely see our clients. And in the digital side, there's a pressure. So some of them don't know how it works, but there's a pressure to do it. And it's not like direct mail where there's like this pressure not to do it. The private equity company is like, well, that's not that cool, you got to do this. So it really depends on the program.
Like Meredith Corporation is a client of ours, a big client. We've historically just dealt with the circulation people, and when we try to have conversations with the traditional circulation people about digital, it's always, well, there's somebody else that handles that, or we're not talking to them. Until recently, when now the circulation people actually report are within the digital group. So now they're doing things together, and I'm thrilled because now I can have conversations that I wasn't able to have conversations with these people before because they were somewhere else, so they were handling it differently.
Or are you guys leading the change inside your clients? Are you helping them get to that? Like, that's a data connection that wasn't available before. Is it because we're asking those questions?
For us, I think it is. I think there's not a client. I think in the last 6 months we haven't. I mean, it's almost like a DMA show last October. One of our employees said to me, I had all these meetings to talk about all the lists that we sell, and no one wants to talk about the list. They want to talk about what's new. What are you doing in digital? What are you doing in Facebook? What are you doing here? So I think there's all the meetings that we have. We'll do either a review on the brokerage side or on the sales side. But that lasts about 20 minutes, and then the rest of the conversation is about, here's some new opportunities where we can leverage our data in different digital or non-traditional media.
Yeah, I think as far as structure too, what's amazing to me is companies that may have a database that makes them 7 figures plus and have all this data activity going on, and there's no chief database person or database marketing executive. There's just kind of different people pulling at it as if it's just this thing off. We're seeing now people put money into that job and say we need somebody to run data operations and all the religion, and they don't have to be technical experts, but they need to know where to find the pieces to put together.
Are clients willing to test in a way that, all right, this is new and a shiny new object, and I don't expect an ROI, I just want to see what this looks like. And I just come from, when South by Southwest, they had a person from Pepsi speak, and they said, 70% is tried and true. We don't even ask, it keeps going. It works, yeah, we keep monitoring it, yes, we have ROI, great. 20% is new, but we expect an ROI off of it. So it's stuff we've tested, and we feel like it's ready for rollout. And then there's that 10% of their budget they just said, we're going to throw and see what sticks. And we're going to try that out. Is anybody so courageous in your stable to allow that kind of freedom?
We're all in the business of recurring revenue, so I actually prefer somebody that has an ROI goal and is looking to make this an ongoing part of their marketing program. If you're just looking to just see if it sticks, if you will, then oftentimes that business doesn't come back. So we try to make sure that we're working towards a goal so that if we fall short of the goal, we can optimize it. If we exceed the goal, then there's no reason why this isn't a part of your marketing mix going forward. We generate recurring revenue, and we're in the game.
Yeah, I think the challenge, and Ryan mentioned it, was somebody who probably was spending millions on direct mail saying, I'll give you 25 grand, oop, it didn't work, and we're gone.
Right, yeah.
That's the challenge with the new market. So in the digital space, we want them to commit to at least a test program where they're doing, you think about some of the big direct marketing, direct mail companies that would mail 50, 60 million outside prospect, and then they go to email and they want to do a 5,000 name test and it didn't work. Wow, well, it's tough. So try to get them to commit at least some kind of test budget to the medium so it has a shot at working, and then it could integrate into everything else.
And an upfront contract about what are we going to do at the end of the day when we look at the metrics and we're either short or we've exceeded it. Is this, is there room for this going forward?
I'm kind of surprised, because with digital, you can test so many more cycles than you can on one direct mail cycle, and you feel like you can tweak things and get a quicker return on things. That's interesting. Listen, we have 5 minutes left, but I kind of want to see where here we are today, and gosh, I hate to put on, look in the crystal ball and make any guesses, but where do you feel? We're an $11 billion business now. We've grown 5-fold in 20 years. That's not just data, it's analytics. How do you see us, what do you see as the biggest challenge and biggest opportunity within the next 5 years for data marketing? Any ideas?
Yeah, I think the biggest opportunity is the continued path of the integration between the online and offline, data-driven display. People don't just want to buy a list, they want you to help them build a program, analyze it, integrate it, and measure ROI. So that's really become the job. It's not just transactional. I think the biggest challenge is, and I was recently at the IAB conference on the digital side trying to learn as much as I could, is that it's moving so fast. I think you mentioned the word velocity, is that the terms are changing every day. What's supposedly ethical and unethical is changing. So you really have to keep on top of what's going on, how to do it, what's the best practices, and they're kind of evolving. So the privacy is probably the biggest area of challenge as all these things start to morph together. Big data is popular, and you read it in the newspapers now, and people talk about it on CNBC, but that also comes with additional responsibility, where you've got more exposure, so people want to know, why are you following me? You know, they don't understand that it's anonymous data and all these things, so you have to be kind of really pay attention to what's going on. We actually have a different attorney we use just for privacy issues, digital contracts, data contracts, all as a way to stay in front of what's going on. It's been really helpful for us.
I think, for us, 3/4 of our business is still traditional direct mail. It's 75% of what we do, the revenue we generate, is coming from the direct mail channel. So if I'm looking at what's our biggest challenge, it's the cost for direct mail not getting any less expensive, and is there any way to stabilize that current revenue stream for us? So if I had to think of a challenge, it's probably it for us. I don't know where direct mail is going to be a year, 2, 5 years from now. But the opportunity, I think, is vast on the leveraging that offline data and taking it online. There's, Datalogics got bought by Oracle for a reason, for a ton of money, because for the same reason. It's about leveraging the offline data and how to leverage it in the online world. And that's what we're all good at, is leveraging data. So I think that represents the biggest opportunity for us in the next 2 to 5 years.
I think that personally, one of our big opportunities is bringing all of these solutions to the people that heretofore might not have had the opportunity, hadn't been exposed to them, or couldn't get to them. So we have technology solutions that all the big companies and the big brands are using with success that we can bring to the mid-market companies, or the companies that don't have the infrastructure in place to do this themselves, and allow them to access big data, because they're reading all about it in a way that they don't feel like they can, because they're not a big company, because they don't have the data collection or analytics abilities that a big company has. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to take these solutions and bring them down to the next level.
Thank you. Is there questions from anyone in the audience today? I want to give anybody the opportunity to ask. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll ask everybody, but Rob had brought it up. How do you go to your clients and position yourselves as a smaller company, saying that we can be that, we're ahead of the curve on the technology. You're saying it's changing so fast, and it is. It changes like on a daily basis. But how do you promote yourselves as, we are the experts in that field, and we can help you monetize all that information and all that offline data, bringing it online and whatnot? How do you get them away from viewing you as a traditional direct marketer?
Can everyone hear that question?
Part of it has already happened for a while. So we have big, large cooperative databases where we have data contributors, right? And those data contributors put the lists and databases in, and they generate revenue, some of them a lot of revenue. So to go to them and say, hey, we have one more aspect of this program that we're going to do. We're going to extend it out. We've already built the database. We're going to extend it out into the digital world and look at the revenue you've already generated. So we already have a lot of the large-scale clients, like a Microsoft and a Citrix, that we're generating revenue from. And we've already got data where we're already making, so it's not like a new thing. I think what happens is a lot of the new services actually become the tip of the spear going forward as well. So it might get us in doors that we wouldn't normally do. Oracle Cloud just had a press release and mentioned us, D&B, and Madison Logic as digital data contributors. That's a pretty good company. We're happy with that, right? And they did that because they saw a value in the data. On the digital data, on the B2B side, when we first started doing this, they said, well, we just want some simple, homogenized information because we can't handle anything else. So the amount of data we've had in the quote-unquote offline email world is actually well ahead of what they wanted. So they see an opportunity. So I think you have to have value in the data. You have to have pre-existing relationships that will have trust. It's not like we're going out today and say, hey, we're starting something new and we want to land Microsoft. We've had Microsoft for 10 years. We're trusted by them. We work with them. So as we introduce new things, they're pretty receptive to it.
And I think it's an easy conversation to have as long as you're not putting something in front of them that they perceive as outside of your sphere of expertise. I mean, all of these things are all data-centric. Again, I know it's a word we keep throwing around, but it's an easy conversation to have because you're already their data guy, right? You're already the person they trust to target their audience effectively offline. It's not a big leap of faith to say that these guys, they can find these people online as well.
And that was the challenge with search we had. We couldn't step in front of Google. You can get between Google and that customer. Made no sense.
Anybody, any other questions? Oh my goodness, okay. Well, listen, thank you to the masters, everyone. Let's give my Stay tuned. FTC's got a re-identification, de-identification workshop planned, and also a cross-device recognition plan. So we'll have to keep our eyes on those things because the privacy issue does wend its way into the discussion quite often. Hey, on your tables from my shop, we've got some luggage tags. Does anybody know what that little eye is on the luggage tags on your table? Anybody know?
Yes.
That little blue eye is a symbol that's served 1 trillion times per month on the internet. It often comes with it's on a digital display ad up in the corner. It often says ad choices. That's our industry's self-regulation program on data collection in the online environment, and also in mobile environments. And through clicking on that icon, a consumer can get information on why they were served a particular ad, and if they have any objections to data collection, although why would you? It's a relevant ad. But if you still want to opt out, there's an opportunity to opt out. So it takes the DMA's choice program that they used to have, or they still have, excuse me, for mail and telephone. And this is 6 trade associations are behind this program to give consumers assurances on privacy. It's a very important program. And take the luggage tags with you. You won't lose your bags. Anything else? Thank you. Christine?
Thanks, Ted.
Thank you very much. We have a few door prizes that we'd like to give out, and maybe we can have our panelists choose out of the basket. Mark? Pick a winner.
Carrie French.
Very French. Good to you. Okay. From Alliant.
You're welcome.
We've got 5 door prizes today.
Donna Hamilton.
Donna Hamilton from Alliant.
At least she didn't pick her own name.
Congratulations, Donna.
I think she actually picked her own name last time.
I did, I picked my own name.
Craig Albanese.
From Merit Direct. Donated by Federal Direct.
Thank you, everybody.
Just don't start drinking this afternoon.
Thank you.
How many do we have?
5.
Lori Latson.
Lori from Dataline. From Catalyst Media. And our last door prize goes to
Marianne Colombo.
Marianne from the card. And that gift is from, who donated this gift?
That's our amount.
Anybody, any takers? RMI. Thank you. And then next we have our 50/50, which is for $125.